Hello, boys and girls, and welcome to another episode of Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed. How is everybody doing out there today? I hope everybody's doing well, and we have entered into the month of September. And just this past Monday, at the time of this recording, it marked Labor Day. And that is the unofficial end to summer. It's the last holiday of the summer. Kids are going back to school now in certain parts of the country. Down here, they already been in school for about a month. But in other portions of the country, after Labor Day is when they start school. And so this marks the kind of the unofficial end of summer. And I figured, you know what? Let's go over this summer. Not so much what happened in the news or current events or anything. Let's look at the summer movie season. And this was projected to be one of the biggest summer movie seasons since the pandemic, of course, which isn't hard to do because it hadn't had much movies come out since 2020. But this was supposed to save the movie theaters. After last year, when Top Gun Maverick came out last summer and made $1 billion, pretty much saved the movie theaters, and it was projected to be just as big this year with so much coming out. I mean, a lot coming out this summer. And we were looking at some potential $1 billion movies, even though we got a few in here, or a couple in here, but it was supposed to be about 5 or 6 different movies that were just going to destroy the box office. And that didn't happen. We had some unexpected films to come out of nowhere and just stay in the top 10 the entire summer. We have films that we thought, at least I thought, was a surefire $1 billion movie, barely make $100 million at the box office. And it blew my mind. And it was good films. And we're not going to rank them today. We're not going to go good or bad or indifferent. This is just a review of winners and losers of this summer movie going season. And there were some big upsets this summer. There were some big upsets. I mean, we had a Marvel film. We had a Tom Cruise film. We had besides Marvel, we had other superhero films. Actually, we had about 4 or 5 superhero films this summer. We had biopics, big budget biopics. We had just a phenomenon of a film that came out and just destroyed the box office. And it was the biggest winner of not only the summer, I would say this year. And I know we're not finished with this year, but I don't think nobody saw this coming. And this is coming from a man who was highly anticipating this movie and couldn't wait to go see it. And I was happy to go see it. Our first winner of the summer of 2023 was, of course, Barbie. Barbie was the #1 winner, and it is a no-brainer. Most people figured Barbie would have been a hit, but not this much. This movie has made over $1 billion worldwide. And it deserved every single penny of it. It is truly one of the best films of the year so far. I enjoyed Barbie, and I'm a mid-40s male who went to the theater wearing pink with the rest of his family. I was all in. And, you know, you kind of got to split it with Oppenheimer as a winner here, because those 2 films really saved the summer. Those 2 films coming out on the same day and both being as successful as they are. Now, Barbie gets the edge because it did win the box office. It did make the most money, but Oppenheimer didn't. It wasn't like it bombed. It didn't bomb. It made real good money. But Barbie was just a phenomenon. Still is a phenomenon. You know, after that movie came out, And for the weeks following, you go to the theater and you see people wearing pink, and you know exactly what they're going to see. And that's how it was for me. I would go see what came out after Barbie. I can't even remember. I went to go see something, and it was just a busload of people, male, female, black, white. It didn't matter. Wearing pink, going in droves into the theater to go see Barbie. And it was a beautiful thing to watch. Such a communal experience for this movie. And it was a fun time. And and looking at it from the aspect of box office, nobody saw this coming. You know, it was just, it is still making money. It's still making money right now. What a film, and what a way to conquer the summer. Our next winner of the summer is Talk to Me. Talk to Me, a horror film from A24, a little film that, the little film that could, I guess you could say. What an indie darling of a film. It was a pure horror film. It was a throwback horror film that, I mean, once again, didn't see coming. Decided to watch this on a whim, uh, just to see what all the talk was about, no pun intended. And I was just blown away by how good of a film this is. This film doesn't have any big name stars. Actually, I can't name one person who was in this movie. I haven't seen, well, one person, Miranda Otto. That was it. And she's not a movie star, like, per se, but that's it. I've only seen her in a few things, nothing major. You know, all the rest of the actors in this film, the directors, everybody, this was first time directors. There's nothing about this film that would say, oh man, I gotta go check this out, other than the fact that the trailer hit, the film itself hit, and it just gained momentum throughout the summer. It went on to gross $44.5 million domestically, and that's pretty good for an independent film that probably cost a quarter of that to make. And so it was one of the winners of the summer. Really, really amazing film. It creeped me out, and it takes a lot to creep me out. Our next winners of the summer, I'm gonna give it two, put two in this category, because they both benefit the same company, and that's Marvel. Marvel was a winner this summer, especially coming off of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which came out in February, which did not please a lot of people. It was not well received per se. And so going into this summer, you have two Marvel films, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Now, I know what you're saying. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is not MCU. I didn't say MCU. I said Marvel. And this benefits the brand of Marvel, into the Spider-Verse, or Across the Spider-Verse, should I say. Starting off with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, this was the swan song of not only this lineup of the Guardians, but also its writer and director of his previous films, James Gunn, as he leaves Marvel to head DC over at Warner Brothers. So this is a send-off, so to speak, of these characters that we've grown to love over the past, I don't know, when did the first one come out? I don't even remember at this point, but what a send-off. What a send-off. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is one of my favorite movies of the year. It was so emotional, so funny, so much action, and it was the perfect send-off to these characters. If you're fans of these characters, this was the best way for these characters to quote unquote ride off into the sunset. And I think it's one of the best movies of the summer. Definitely a winner. It was a moneymaker for Marvel. And this is on the heel, like I said, on the heels of Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, which made money. And it's the funny part about Marvel, to deviate for a second here. those movies are making money. We complain about these movies, but they make money. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania made money. It didn't make a lot of money, but it made money. You know, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever made a lot of money. It was close to $1 billion. I think it was like around 800 million. And so it made money. It wasn't super well received, but it made money. Thor: Love and Thunder made money. It wasn't well received, you know, but these movies, yeah, they're not crushing the box office like phase 1, 2, and 3 are, but they still are generating some funds for Marvel and Disney. And so Guardians was a hit. It was a hit, and it was critically and financially successful. So this is a breath of fresh air for Marvel, and they needed that win. They really need this win because it was looking shaky for a while, and it's still going to be shaky because we got the Marvels coming out in November, and you know, depending on what reports you read, it's not looking too good for the Marvels early reactions to that film. But at least we have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 as far as the MCU is concerned. Now, as far as the Marvel brand as a whole, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse crushes Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, in my humble opinion. This is my top film of the year so far. And we only have, 4 months left in this year. I don't see too many films surpassing it. You know, anything's possible. We'll have to wait and see. But this is definitely in my top 3 of the year. Not summer, of the year. And right now it sits at 1. I'm only saying top 3 to give a little leeway for the remainder of the year. But this was an amazing film. And going by the fact that this film, the previous film, Into the Spider-Verse, wasn't that financially successful, believe it or not. It didn't make a lot of money, you know, but it won an Academy Award for Best Animated Picture, and fans loved it, you know, but it didn't make buku amounts of money to justify a sequel per se, let alone 2. But they went ahead with it, and I think the world is better for it because, man, this was one of the best films of the year. Domestically, this film went on to gross $381 million. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 grossed $358 million worldwide. So these were 2 giant films for Marvel as a brand. And like I said before, Marvel needed this in the worst way. And so they are definitely one of the winners of this summer movie season. Our other winner was a shocker in a way, and it is Pixar, because Pixar had their backs against the ropes here. They weren't really knocking it out the park lately either. Their last couple of films either was going straight to Disney Plus or wasn't as well received as their previous films. And Elemental came out this year, and initially Elemental looked like a bomb. It did not click that first, I'll say 2 or 3 weeks it was in theaters, but it just stuck around. It was like the little engine that could. I think I can. People started going, and I this is truly a word of mouth film, because as weeks went on, people will go see it. Then the next week, more people will go see it, and it just chugged along, and it became a hit. Domestically, it grossed $153 million, and it did not look like it was. I think opening weekend, I don't even think it made 20. I don't think it broke into the teens. I can't remember exactly what that opening weekend number was, but it was like, oh my God, Pixar got a bomb on his hand, and it just laid around just long enough for people to catch on, and it made its money. And this is one of the things, an example of things that I wish these studios would do more. You know, back in the day, movies would be in a theater for a year. In some cases, 2 years. You know, if you're going mid 80s, early 80s, movies would stick around in the theater forever and make us money. But now you have day and day releases with the streaming services. And I think studios are messing up with those streaming services. It's not generating the money that they thought, and they're losing out. See, if Disney and Pixar would have overreacted those first couple of weeks that Elemental came out, they would have lost out big time. But leaving it in the theaters, not overreacting, letting it breathe, and finding its audience benefited tremendously for this film. So Pixar came out a big winner for being patient, for being patient and letting this movie. I have yet to see it, and I regret it because I love all the Pixar films. You know, I really do, and I got to catch it. I got to catch up with a couple of films that I haven't seen in the past few weeks, but this is one of them that I'm regretting that I didn't get to go see in the theaters, you know, when it first came out. But I'm glad that it did find an audience, and I'm glad that it did make its money, and it's still making money at the box office. Pixar, one of the winners of this summer movie season. We have two more winners on the list today, and of course, I mentioned earlier about Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer came alongside of Barbie. We thought one of them was going to butcher the other, even though, if you really sit back and think, these are two different audiences for these. These are two completely different audiences for these films. You know, they are targeted to two different demographics. Now, in my case, both films targeted me. I feel that they both were targeting me. But this was the rare occasion where two films come out on the same day, where you dedicate your weekend to going to see both. And most people did that. When they were lockstep for months, they were 1 and 2 for at least a month and a half. It was Barbie at 1, Oppenheimer at 2, and their average drop per week were exactly the same. It was the craziest thing, you know. It was just the edge to Barbie, because you got to think young kids, you know, little girls and all that there that definitely weren't going to see Oppenheimer. That's the reason why it edged out Oppenheimer. Once again, two different demographics. So that's understandable. But the audience that Oppenheimer was aiming for went to go see it, and went to go see it in droves. This is the first, I could say, real Oscar contender of the year. Some even saying Barbie is an Oscar contender, and I wouldn't be mad at it. It'll be interesting to see. Definitely Ryan Gosling. I think Ryan Gosling got a shot to be nominated for Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor, however they want to put him in the category to win. But Oppenheimer was a great film. A perfect change of pace from the rambunctious summer that we were getting. And hey, man, it affected one of the losers that we're going to discuss a little later, and I'm going to tell you why when we get to that film. But it definitely won, and it won big time. Our last winner of the summer is a film that I knew nothing about. Still don't know much about it. I know the premise of the film and all, but I don't know where it comes from. And it is Sound of Freedom. And for some strange reason, that movie just destroyed the box office, man. for its film, for what it was like the number 6 film of the summer, money making wise. It made $181 million worldwide, and I mean not worldwide, domestically, but I'm pretty sure that it didn't make much worldwide. as much worldwide, but I could be wrong. But in any event, this movie came out of nowhere, starring Jim Caviezel. A lot of people know him as Jesus from Passion of the Christ. He's in this film, and that's the only person that you would know from this film. It's a movie about child trafficking, sex trafficking, and it just came out of nowhere and took off and created a phenomenon of the summer and crushed one of the movies that I thought was going to just blow it away. Let me put it in perspective, and we're going to go over these films a little later, but we're just going domestic now. Sound of Freedom made more money domestically than Indiana Jones, than Mission Impossible, than Transformers, than Fast X, than, than The Flash. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is crazy that this movie made that much money at the box office and blew these established franchise films out of the water. If that ain't a winner, I don't know what is. Now, I haven't seen the movie, and I don't plan to watch that movie because the people who made it, or the person that film is based on, has beliefs that I don't rock with, so I don't want to support nothing that is associated with them. But yeah, that is crazy to me. But those are your winners of the summer. But let's go into the downside. Let's go into the loser part of the summer. And there are more losers than winners, unfortunately. And I've already named a few of them when I was discussing Sound of Freedom. But one of them, of course, I can't start off the loser list without starting off with The Flash. The Flash is the biggest loser of the summer. This is so heartbreaking. This is so heartbreaking to me because I was looking forward to this movie just like others, millions of others. But it seemed like I'm the only one that knew it was coming out that day. But I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened. This was actually a good film. This was an awesome film. This is one of the best DC films ever. But it was pulled on, and it didn't make it. I mean, bomb. This was the biggest money loser in Warner Brothers history. This movie grossed $108 million domestically, I mean, here in the United States. Now, under circumstances from 20 years ago, that would be excellent. But when you think of the fact that this movie cost $200 and something million to make, and you add another 100 and something million in marketing, it lost millions of dollars. And I know there's a lot of factors that went into this. We all know the Ezra Miller factor. I actually heard somebody say that's the reason why they didn't go see it, was because of Ezra Miller and his their criminal past, or whatever you want to call it. I know people who didn't go see it because DC has burnt them in the past. People are tired of being burnt off of DC. You know, they gave DC enough chances, and I guess it's like the boy that cried wolf. You know, they said this is a good one, this is a good one, this is a good one, and they all like plug. You know, going back to Black Adam and Shazam and all these other films, and people just got tired. And most people, the majority of people who went to early screenings of The Flash said, "Oh man, this is awesome, this is great, this is one of the greatest superhero films of all time," and blah blah blah. People were like, whatever, you know, they tired of hearing it and didn't go see it. And the boy that cried wolf, the wolf actually came, and they didn't listen. I enjoyed The Flash. Did I think it was the greatest comic book movie of all time? No, No, I'm not gonna go that far, but it was definitely the greatest DC movie of all time. Yeah, a lot has been said about the special effects. I'm on board with that. Didn't care for the special effects, but you know, it didn't really affect the movie to the point of how good it is. There were great performances in there by Ezra Miller, by Michael Keaton, and others. Sasha Kaye as Supergirl. All that was great, man. I it's just sad. It's sad that it failed so miserably, and the cameos didn't help. It just nothing helped this movie. And it was just a pure disaster for DC, for Warner Brothers, and everybody involved, especially for James Gunn, who had nothing to do with the production of this film. But being as though he's over DC films now, all this looks bad upon him. And so, I hope it gets better, with the new DC that is beginning, with Superman Legacy in a couple of years. We'll see. We'll see. All right, our next loser of summer 2023 is a heartbreaker. This is probably one of the biggest heartbreak. This is a bigger heartbreak than The Flash to me, because I'm a massive fan of this character, of this film franchise, and of the actor. And this was his swan song to a character that has been around for 40 years. And that is Indiana Jones. One of the biggest losers of the summer. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, it just didn't work. And I think, once again, a lot of people have been burnt by what took place with the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, I guess. But not only that, it's kind of hard to picture an 80-year-old man running around to find treasures and all this other stuff. I guess that was it too, but I enjoyed Dial of Destiny. Now, do I put it within the pantheon of Raiders of the Lost Ark or Temple of Doom or Last Crusade? No, it's the fourth best film in the franchise. It was better than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, but it didn't crack into those original trilogies to me and to a lot of people. Once again, it failed at the box office, grossing $174 million domestically. It's sad, man. It's sad to say this was it. This was it for that character. And this was Harrison Ford really giving an awesome performance as this character, as an old, grizzled Indiana Jones. They didn't play into the fact. Okay, let's go back to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, right? Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, they tried to act like Harrison Ford wasn't getting up there in age. It really tried to play into the, that he's still Indiana Jones. He can still crack a whip and swing across a warehouse and, fight Nazis. And, well, they were Russians in that film. And, it was just not believable. But in this film, they really grounded it. And you realize he's old. And they played to the fact that he's an old curmudgeon man now, lonely, and, he doesn't have that step like he had before. I enjoyed it. I really did. And I wished it would have got a better response than it did, a better reception that it did, but ultimately it fell miserably. And I still don't know where that $300 million was, because this movie cost $300 million to make, and I don't know where it went, how they spent that movie. I guess it all money rather. I guess it all went to Harrison Ford. I don't know, but yeah, one of the biggest losers of the summer. Another franchise that took a hit was the Mission Impossible franchise and Tom Cruise. And talk about a kick in the gut, man. Tom Cruise, who is fresh off of saving the movie theaters last year with Top Gun Maverick, thinking he's going to repeat that this year. And I did too, because I was looking forward to this movie and I enjoyed Mission Impossible. But let me just say this. Let me give a moment to just clarify some things. These are the winners and losers of the summer, but that doesn't necessarily mean that these are bad films, or even some of the winners are good films, even though they so happen to be that. But some of these losers are good films. I mean, think about it. These first three losers that I've mentioned, I've made cases that they were good films. The Flash was good. Uh, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was good. And Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 was good. But they they didn't do good at the box office. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 grossed $170 million domestically. Part of the reason for that, there's a couple of reasons. Number one, it came out the same weekend as Sound of Freedom. Yes, Sound of Freedom beat Mission Impossible. Jim Caviezel beat Tom Cruise at the box office. I can't make this stuff up. And then you factor in when you want to put these movies in premium, these big budget action movies, you want them on the biggest screens possible. You want them on IMAX. You want them in Dolby Cinema. You want these on what's the other one, the 4DX or whatever. You want them on these big screens. Unfortunately, the following week, Oppenheimer came out and Barbie came out. So all of those premium screens, the IMAXs and the Dolbys, they went to Oppenheimer. So Mission Impossible lost a lot of those screens, whereas it got lost in the wayside. And then Barbenheimer just was a hurricane that just swept through the theaters and consumed everything. And so, unfortunately, Tom Cruise, Paramount Studio, they picked the wrong weekend to release this film. Maybe they should have pushed it back, or put up, or brought it up some. Let it come out in May or something like that. This was a horrible decision to put this movie out against those two films. And I understand why they put it up against Sound of Freedom. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that? I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have thought that movie would have beat. But that weekend it came out, Sound of Freedom beat it. And it stayed on top of it the entire time it was in the top 10. Unbelievable. But this is a big shot at Tom Cruise. And especially, you got Dead Reckoning Part 2 coming out next year. How does that affect that? So many questions. So it's going to be, it is a big loser, because that's going to pressure Paramount to put more money behind Part 2, because they don't want the collapse of what happened in Part 1. And so, man, that stinks, man. That really stinks for Tom Cruise and this franchise, and in a film that I felt was one of the best in the franchise. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 was awesome. I kid you not. I enjoyed that movie immensely, and I couldn't believe it when it didn't do bananas numbers at the box office. You can't make this stuff up, man. This is true Hollywood here. This is the stuff they write movies about. All this that was going on this summer is so backwards. Our next loser of summer 2023 is Disney, or should I say classic Disney. Two films came out this summer that just didn't wow the box office. Now, Disney did good with Guardians 3, but Haunted Mansion and The Little Mermaid did not connect with audiences. Now, you can make the argument. Both films have black leads in them, and in traditionally Caucasian roles, I guess you could say. And so uh, that's the only thing I can think of, honestly, because once again, two films that weren't that bad. Now, the problem with Haunted Mansion, it shouldn't have came out this summer. Haunted Mansion should have came out in October, at the earliest September, but not in the summer. This would have been the perfect. Actually, this would have been the perfect time to release. Yeah, September, early September. Let it gain momentum towards Halloween, and it probably would have did better. But I don't know what they were thinking, putting this out in the summer. That was the problem with the movie. The movie was all right. It was all right. It wasn't the greatest. It wasn't a summer movie. The Little Mermaid, on the other hand, The Little Mermaid was good, but it was The Little Mermaid. If you've seen the animated Little Mermaid, you've seen this one. It is just like the other live action remakes from Disney. It wasn't anything special. It was good, but it wasn't special, at least not to me. And it suffered. Now, was it a bomb? No, but it underperformed. Both films, they underperformed. The Little Mermaid, it made close to $300 million domestically. Great. But they were expecting this film to make close to $1 billion, and it didn't get close to that. The Haunted Mansion, it only made $64 million domestically. That is horrible. That is bad business for a film that costs well over $100 million to make. So I look, man, like I said, it wasn't bad. It was just bad timing. It's horrible timing, if you want to be honest. But something that wasn't a winner and wasn't necessarily a loser per se, it was kind of even kill. And I have a couple of films that fall into that gray area, right between winner and loser. And the first one is Transformers: Rise of the Beast. It was, that film didn't really hit financially. It made decent money. It wasn't a money loser, but it didn't blow the box office off. This was supposed to be the film to kick off or kind of soft reboot the franchise from the Michael Bay films. It didn't quite get there because all the Michael Bay Transformer films, not all of them, but they mostly made $1 billion at the box office, and those weren't good films, to be honest with you. But this was actually a good film. This movie felt like the old cartoon from the 80s. It had everything. The soundtrack was just amazing. If you grew up in the 90s, you loved the soundtrack. You loved the voice acting. The characters was awesome. Everything was great. It just didn't connect in the theaters. Now, it has found an audience digitally. Is doing great digitally. I think it just came out on Paramount Plus a couple of weeks ago. It's doing great numbers from what I read. It just didn't connect at first. But this was supposed to launch two franchises. Actually, relaunch the Transformers franchise, as well as, spoilers, G.I. Joe. And so it is a lot that was riding on this film, and it didn't quite get there. But it did make enough to justify it as a hit, or at least not a flop. I mean, it was dead even. It pretty much broke even as a film. And another film, our last film, that kind of falls in that middle ground is another film from Paramount. And that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. And once again, one of the best films of the summer. Didn't deserve to be this low, but it didn't quite make enough. Now, it's one of these, it's hanging around. Word of mouth is helping it, surely. So far, as of right now, it's grossed $107 million domestically. But Uh, they were hoping for more. They were hoping for this to launch a new version of the franchise. They already greenlit a sequel. They greenlit a TV series to be on Nickelodeon, and based off of this film. And so there's a lot riding on this film, and I guess that's why it's kind of a loser, because it didn't set the world on fire. But this was just a jam-packed summer. This summer was full of movies. It was too many. You might can say it was oversaturated. It's so much coming out, and you had to pick and choose of what to go see. And I think a lot of good films suffered because of it. And let's not forget the elephant in the room. You have the strikes going on, and I know a lot of people, they're confused by the strikes. What does this mean? Do I go to the movies? I mean, there's no promotion behind these films. There's no marketing behind these films because there's no actors to promote it. Nobody is saying it. You don't see Denzel Washington showing up on the Tonight Show promoting Equalizer 3 because he's on strike. Or in other films, that's why a lot of films this fall and this winter are being pushed back to next year because of the strike, and they can't promote. They don't have the actors to promote the films. That's all part of it. And I think that kind of hurt these films towards the end of the summer. Now, that's one of the reasons. I'm not saying that's the reason, but it's one of the many factors as to why this summer wasn't the juggernaut that it was projected to be. I mean, just look at let's go through the numbers. Let's go through the top 10 films of the summer, financially, domestic, box office wise. Coming in at number one is, of course, Barbie. Domestically, that film made $612 million. Coming in at number two is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, grossing $381 million domestically. Now, I'm going to go through the rest, but just look at the disparity there between one and two. There's almost close to a $300 million difference right there. That says a lot. Coming in at number three, ironically, is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It grossed $358 million domestically. Coming in at number four is Oppenheimer, grossing $310 million. At number five, The Little Mermaid, grossing $298 million. At number six, and this is such a shock to me. It's unbelievable. At number six is Sound of Freedom, grossing $181 million domestically. At number seven is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, grossing $174 million. At number eight, you have Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, $170 million. At number nine, Transformers Rise of the Beast, $157 million domestically. And at number 10, you have Elemental, grossing $153 million domestically. Well, let's go 20. Let's go to the top 20. Because there's some films within the top 20 that I feel I need to address as well. At number 11, Fast X. Fast X, which the last Fast 9, F9, whatever it was, it grossed $1 billion, and that was during the pandemic. Fast X grossed $145 million domestically. The Flash came in at number 12 with $108 million. At number 13, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, $107 million. At 14, Insidious, The Red Door. That was another winner that I wanted to sneak in there as well. It grossed $82 million domestically. At number 15, Meg 2, The Trench, which is probably the worst movie I've seen this year. It grossed $79 million domestically, but it made about twice that internationally, which is mind-boggling to me. The Super Mario Brothers movie, which pretty much opened the summer, It went on to gross, I think, $1 billion, but domestically, it made $75 million. At number 17, Haunted Mansion, $64 million. At number 18, Blue Beetle, which was a good film. I enjoyed Blue Beetle. Also, kind of a loser, with $58 million. At number 19, No Hard Feelings, at 50 million domestically, and that's pretty much par for a raunchy comedy coming out in this summer. I know a lot of people was wishing for better, but that's about as good as it get. And at number 20, Talk to Me, 44.5 million domestically, and that's a winner for that film because it came out of nowhere and it made that much money, and it deserved more. I think it's one of the best horrors of the year. So those are your winners and losers of summer 2023. I could have went into more. I could have talked about Fast X more, but I hate that franchise. I checked out of the Fast and the Furious after the fifth one. After that it was just whatever. It still amazed me that movie franchise was making money, and so maybe this signifies the end to that. I know they got one more, or is it two more in the works? I don't know. I don't care. I'm tired of it. But anyways, yeah, this was a very odd summer. I really, those that I thought would have been in the top 5 were in the bottom. And it's crazy to see that. And then for a film like Sound of Freedom to be the 6th highest grossing film of the summer is amazing. Over Indiana Jones, over Mission Impossible, over Transformers, over The Flash, over Ninja Turtles, over all these films is crazy. It is wow. But I would like to know, what did you think of this summer movie going season? Did you watch the majority of these films, any of these films, or none of these films? I want to know what you thought. Are you waiting for them to hit streaming services? Like, I guess you could say half of the, more than half, going by these numbers of the country or the world, not waste your time going to the theater. I'd like to know what you thought, or what was your favorite movie of the summer. I don't know, man. It's a tough one. It's between Barbie, Spider-Man, and Ninja Turtles for me. It's a close race there, and I would probably go. Yeah, I gotta go Spider-Man. I'm sorry, I love that movie. I loved Across the Spider-Verse, but Barbie comes in a close second. I tell you what, let's go 1A and 1B. Let's do that. But I want to know what your favorite was. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. Also on all social media platforms, just look up the KB Radio Network, as well as YouTube. Look up the KB Radio Network channel, subscribe, and like this video, please. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show, no matter where you are currently listening to Movie Goodness here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for the winners and losers of summer movie going season 2023. I want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love one another. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.